Hello and welcome back to another Tech Articles. Today's article is another FlowMattic tutorial based around a question that was asked in the Facebook group yesterday or this morning. I'm not quite sure when. I saw it and thought, yeah, I can do that. So I thought rather than try and explain it, I'll produce a video and I'll show you. So the question was, can we use FlowMattic to create a Uptime robot type status code checker? So we're looking for the status code of 200 when we check a website. And I assume this is based around some of the policy changes that are coming at Uptime Robot. So what I've done is I've pulled together a new workflow called Uptime. And this uses all FlowMattic inbuilt stuff. So other than one simple PHP function using the PHP function check, the whole thing is native FlowMattic. It's relatively quick and easy to do. So I'm just going to talk you through the steps first. So in my example, I've set a 5-minute check. This is entirely up to you. This is totally customizable. You could check it every 1 minute, every hour, every day, week, month, whatever you want. But for uptime monitoring, 5 minutes seems to be one of those standards that is quite often done. So I've decided to do it every 5 minutes. I've then built a array of our list of values, and in this case I have 5, I think. FlowMattic, one that I know is going to fail, called notreal.local. I've got youtube.com, I've got facebook.com, and facebook.com I believe has the www in front of it, so that should return a 301 for a permanent redirect. And we have still not real.local for a second failure. So at the end of this, when we turn this on, we should get 3 emails. One to tell us that not real.local returned a status code other than 200. One to tell us that still not real.local did the same, and one to tell us that facebook.com returned a value of 301. And I'll show you that in the steps that we go through in a few moments. So we've got our domains, and then what we're going to do is we're going to iterate through them. And I love the iteration. It means that we can keep flows small. And as I've said in other videos, I like to keep my flows relatively small and pass off rather than necessarily lots of large flows. And Iterator allows me to do just that. It allows me to do lots and lots in one workflow and iterate through our array that we built up here. So it will basically, the way this will work is, because I haven't ever stopped the iterator, it will go through our list and do the next steps. So it will go to our custom function and it will give it the domain name, which is the very first one on our iteration here. It will then, if 200 comes back as a status code, it will do nothing. If it isn't, it will then send us an email. And for that email here, I've got a local install with MailPit, and actually it does work because there's the emails. We'll delete those because we're going to want those later. So I've got a local install here. It's got MailPit installed, and what we should get here, oh, it's still live, that's why. So just save that workflow and stop it being live for now. So that we know MailPit is empty when we go to it, and before we start it off, I'll check that is the case. So yeah, that's the flow really. It's very, very simple in Fluent snippets, and it doesn't have to be Fluent snippets. I usually use WP Codebox, but I wanted to keep this as free as possible. Other than FlowMattic, I wanted you to use as little premium or no premium plugins, in fact, as possible to make it easy. So in Fluent snippets, I have a tiny snippet which I will put into the description below, and we will. That allows you to run your domains through, and it returns status codes. So as I say, I will put a link to the GIST for this, and also a link for the GIST for the workflow, so that you don't have to start from scratch and build it out. You can just take the workflow that I've used in this video and modify it for your needs. And this is really how simple it all is. So I'm going to go back to FlowMattic. I'm going to walk you through the workflow in a bit more detail. which there will be a bit of repetition from my introduction there, and we will then test it, show you, and we will be done. From now, which should take a few more minutes, and you'll understand how I built this and how you can build it yourself. There's an unlimited amount of options here. At the end, you could send a Discord or a Slack notification. You could even where I've added the domains in a PHP array, you could read them out of Google Sheets and do them that way. It all depends on your needs. What I wanted to do was show the base functionality here in the easiest way if you're setting a domain. Another way you could do it is load a remote CSV. You could have a remote CSV stored and load that into the iterator and go from there. So there's lots of ways you can customize this to work around your workflow, but this is how I would do what was requested, checking the status code, because the inbuilt API checks and all the stuff that was being suggested doesn't really do that. Really, in my opinion, the easiest way of doing this is a custom function to just get you the data that you want. So we've got our trigger, which is to schedule every 5 minutes. Simple activating trigger. Once every 5 minutes, it will do. I've clicked for it to do it on weekends as well because uptime's important. We've then added our domains, which is just a convert a list to array using the PHP array function that comes with FlowMattic, and I've just added some domains to it here in the listed value, and I've used a separator of a comma and I've told it so, and that gives us our list. I've then built an iterator, and that iterator loops through the PHP array above, and what that will do is, because it's an iterator, it will take every one of the domains in this list here and run them through the next steps until it's stopped and or it runs out of domains. And in this case, I don't stop it, so it's when it runs out of domains. It will then check our domains, and how it does that is by running against our function that I showed from our Fluent snippets. And you can see here the function's called get HTTP status code. It sends in an individual variable. That individual variable is domain, and iterator 3.0. Actually, this doesn't matter. It's this that is important. It says domains, but it could say domain, it could say anything you like. Then it does nothing. It's got a filter on here. This is where it will stop if it doesn't reach this filter. So if we get a status code of 200 from a website, it will not go any further. This will be the last stop of that check, and it will do nothing. But if it doesn't equal 200, it will then send us an email, and that email is built up of different items here, and we will carry on. And what it says here is iterator 3.0, and in this case this is our domain. A status code change, so it should say domain status code change. Status code was reported as, and then it returns the response from our function. And obviously we know that's going to be anything but 200. So I'm going to save and test that, and I'm going to save this workflow, and then I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to go to mail post. That's because I've just tested it. So let me delete that. So we've got nothing in our mail pit. I'm going to now turn this on. I'm going to save this workflow, and then I'm going to sit in mail pit for a second. Here, actually, I'm going to make one modification and change this to 1 minute so that it does it again. But here we go. We got exactly what we wanted, and there you go. It's running again where I've just changed it. And it's this quick. So we got hit one here for not real.local, so it tells us the domain. It says the status code has changed. Status code was reported as 0. And if we go to Facebook, as I said, I believe this was a redirect anyway, and status code was reported as 301, which is a redirect, permanent redirect. It tells us the domain, and still not real was still not real, and it's done the same. And what it's doing, you can see this every minute. It is running through our items and our list, and it's checking them. And let's delete these as quick as I can, and we should get another set in a few seconds. And obviously I don't know what the full domain name is for Facebook, otherwise I could make a change there. Let me pause this and find out what that is, and then I'll come back. Okay, so it appears that the Facebook URL is actually with the www in. So I've added that in now, and hopefully that will come back with a response to change that 301, and we should either get a different response code, or a no email at all about it because it's a 200 now. So it should pop back into the box any second. And here we go, it's changing. Okay, so it's changed to 302, which is a temporary redirect, I think. So God knows where Facebook actually ends up. But there you go. That is an example of how you can use FlowMattic to check the uptime status of your sites, to check for a 200 status, and get reports of websites when they are down. As I say, this is totally customizable. You could do all sorts of different things on the end of the process, i.e. Slack, i.e. Discord, email, link with Twilio, get text messages. I mean, the list is endless. And at the front end, you could put your domains in via a CSV file, a Google Sheet, a text file. There's all via a custom function. There's all sorts of ways you could do this and get this to work. In fact, you could probably even build a WordPress admin interface to store them in the options table, and then pull a function to pull them out and give them into a variable that you can then read into FlowMattic. I mean, the possibilities are pretty much endless. So yeah, pretty much all we used here was native FlowMattic, a little bit of PHP code, and something to store our snippet in. And it doesn't have to be a snippet manager. That could also be in your functions PHP file in your theme. So yeah, that's how I would approach this. This is how I would use FlowMattic to test for domain uptime codes, i.e. status 200. I hope you like this video. If this video has been useful, please like it, please subscribe, please leave a comment. If there's something you would like me to try and do with FlowMattic or explain to you, maybe something's not sure, just let me know. It doesn't have to be FlowMattic, WordPress in general. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you find this useful.